Welcome back. I'm Allison Kinnear, women's empowerment coach and speaker. And today we are talking about this concept that I'm sure you've all heard about called quiet quitting. If you want to know more about the description of quiet quitting, it is in the description below, but it's basically a rejection of hustle culture. It's basically saying, show up, do your job, and then leave it. Like, don't go above and beyond. Don't to quietly quit doing above and beyond. That's the idea. That's the concept. And it blew up on TikTok and it still is in the news. I'm finding almost on a weekly basis. Oh, and okay. Sorry if I'm not sure if this is coming in live or not. I keep getting these error messages. Anyway, so today we are talking about quiet quitting, or is it actually healthy boundaries? What is this? Is saying I'm not going to go above and beyond my work? Is that irresponsible? Is it appropriate? Is that just a healthy boundary? Where does this idea fall? And I think the idea or the concept of quiet quitting is a bit of a misnomer. I think people see it as slacking off or not really doing your job, just mailing it in. And I think the idea that any tool is a weapon depending on how you hold it, right? So if we can use quiet quitting as a tool, then I think it can fall into the healthy boundary setting, right? Because if you are doing your job, if you are committed to your job and you love what you do, and maybe not all of it, right? But you are committed to doing a really great job of showing up really well and having a rich, full life outside of work, then at any point in time, healthy boundaries are going to need to be important. And for some people, maybe they don't want boundaries with their work. Maybe that's how they identify as a human being. Maybe that's how they want to live their life 24/7, giving to their work. And that's fine. If that's how you roll, then that works for you. And I think a lot of folks want to have a little bit more balance. And so to me, if you are using this term quiet quitting and not really doing the job, not really doing the stuff that you don't really like to do, then that's not quiet quitting. In my mind, that is not fulfilling your responsibilities, right? Like, any job comes with things that you love to do and things that you don't love to do. And sometimes we have to go through the sucky parts. And at the same time, I think the reason why this has caught fire is because there has been a long history of our work, of corporations, as well as other kinds of jobs, the Great Resignation, the kind of turnover and pressures where we are expected to do more with less. And that has amplified since the pandemic, but it's also been in play for a really, really, really long time. And so I remember a dear friend and colleague of mine said, this job, she said this to me when I was pregnant with my first child. She said, this job will take everything it can from you. So the question you need to sit with is, what are you willing to give it? And what are you not willing to give it? So that's the question that I think this quiet quitting shines a light on. And it's hard to find the right answer. To me, this doesn't mean it's either quiet quitting or healthy boundaries. To me, it's like, can we do both? And I think it points to some maybe not always uncomfortable questions, but it points to questions around who owns your time. Clearly, when you're at work, that's part of the energetic exchange. You show up, you do work, and in return, you get pay, you get benefits, you get whatever, you get community, you get to feel good about doing a good job at your work. But then who owns your time outside of work? And when does that happen, especially with so many people working from home and the lines between home and work are blurred now more than ever? Who owns your time and when? What about weekends? What about evenings? What about when your children are sick? who owns your time? And what is your role in deciding who owns your time? I think another question that it asks is, where do you source your self-worth? How do you feel important in this life? Where do you put your identity? Where do you decide your worthiness? If it's all wrapped up in work, then it's hard when you're not devoting your time to work to kind of know if your worthiness or who you are outside of that. And I think that leads to this other question of, are you more than your job title? If you lead with your job title, this is who I am, then that's great. That's fine. That's wonderful. That's lovely. And what I find is when people over-identify with their job title, when their work becomes their source of worth, then everything is externally based. If they're getting great reviews, then they're like, I am a good and decent person. And if they make a mistake, then boom, plummeting down. Apparently, I'm a loser. I don't know what I'm doing. And I also see that when our identity is so tied up in our work, it can also lead to burnout really quickly. And burnout, imposter syndrome, all of those things can really flare up when we are so caught up in our work. And so this is where that whole any tool is a weapon depending on how you hold it. Are you weaponizing your work against yourself? Do you have the ability to be able to not check your email compulsively? Do you have an ability to disengage and find something else that you want to devote some of your time and energy toward? That's that fine line around healthy boundaries. I feel like I support so many of my clients in finding that line around how do you show up, do your work, be proud of your work, do it well, and have some healthy boundaries. And that doesn't mean slacking off. It doesn't mean not showing up. It doesn't mean doing a poor job. It means saying, how do I have both, right? How do I show up fully for my work? And how do I show up fully to my life outside of work? So if you struggle with these questions, right? Who owns your time? Am I more than my job title? Where can I find my worth outside of my work? Then that's the work that I do. And you can look at all my videos. I feel like I touch on this issue in a lot of different ways. And if you struggle with this, or if you have comments about this, I would love to hear them and see them. Craig, in my belief system, the idea of quiet quitting is a form of passive-aggressive behavior. When I deal with my issues and resentments directly with whom I need to deal with, I sleep better at night and get more of what I want. Absolutely. Definitely, Craig. I think this idea of quiet quitting can often be interpreted as, I don't know how to advocate for my needs. I don't know how to advocate for myself. And so instead of voicing these things to people, then I'm going to quietly just walk away. And that can be one interpretation of quiet quitting. And that's not exactly a healthy boundary, right? There's something really different about saying to your colleagues, at this time, this is when I usually clock off. If I need to work a little bit extra, then I will. But I want you all to know this is the time that I'm stepping away from my work. I'm available from this time to this time, but from this time onward, I'm not. That's a really different way of being. Yeah. Thank you for that, Craig. Excellent. I'd love to hear more of your thoughts. What does quiet quitting mean to you? How do you interpret it? What healthy boundaries do you place on work? Or if you don't yet, what kind of healthy boundaries would you like to place on work? That is what I have for you this week. I will see you all next week. Take care.